Right now we're in Nepal, and we're in the south of Nepal. It's in a place called the Terai, which is the lowlands, which is all the way at the base of the Himalayas. And I'm here because in the Terai is one of the largest populations of the endangered Bengal tiger. And I'm here to research the Bengal tiger in order to advance some conservation efforts.
A trip to this part of the globe begins with a stop in Kathmandu, a place teeming with life and the exhaust of life. It's packed with cars and motorcycles, trucks and noise, and people. But just a few hours away is another Nepal, and it's not the mountains you might be expecting. It's the lowlands at the base of the Himalayas. Rich, fertile country where a basic way of life is still the way of life. A place where getting around on elephants isn't so rare, even if it is a bit bumpy. It's here in Chitwan National Park, down near the border with India, that we head out with Neil Carter, who's doing his research.
I'm here to study the way that tigers and people interact, because tigers are a globally endangered species, and they're endangered because of human activities. Human encroachment, because people are cutting down forests in order to build agricultural land or develop land. People poach their prey species so they don't have any food. And also people poach tigers for various things, for medicines and for their bones and for skins. So in order to basically conserve tigers, you ultimately need to understand human behaviors. And you need to find out ways to modify them in order to foster those conditions of coexistence between humans and tigers.
Walking through the forest with Neil, it's not hard to imagine tigers.
Well, we're looking at the pug mark of a tiger, and we're measuring the width from edge to edge. It's probably the left hind foot of a female tigress. So that's kind of exciting. We'll set a trap here and maybe catch a tiger.
One of the best tools he has is the camera. He and his team of local field techs set out remote cameras to record the comings and goings of tigers.
These are special field cameras, and they have an infrared sensor on them, and it's a trigger. And you can set them up outside 24 hours a day, and they're on the whole time. And if anything moves in front of that passive infrared sensor, it triggers the camera to take photos. So if I were a tiger walking through, I have a camera right here, about chest height, but it's angled downward. And then we have another camera over here, a little bit further back to the right. It'd be taking photos of both sides of an animal as it walks by. You need two to make a trap, a camera trap, especially for tigers. You get a picture of both sides of the animal, and that's because the tiger's stripes are unique identification marks. So if you only get one side and then the tiger turns around and comes the other way, you might think it's two different tigers. But once you know what the stripe patterns are on either side, then no matter what picture or what side you get, you always know that it's that tiger.
And this being a very wild place with very wild and assorted animals, you get a lot of stuff on camera.
Oh, we get all kinds of stuff. We get all the wildlife here. We get civets, we get wild boar, we get all the deer, we get people. My favorite are the sloth bears, only because they're the most curious. And I've got a bunch of pictures of them walking up to the camera and looking at it and then getting a little bit miffed that they're there and then just beating on the camera. And so there was a number of times we've come out and the camera looks like it's been moved and it's got dirt all over it, and I'm thinking, oh, somebody was messing with it and they were trying to take it or something. And then we look at the photos and you can see that a sloth bear came up to it and sniffed it and hit it, kind of batted it with its paw, and that's pretty fun.
The clawing. This is also kind of a territory mark. They do lots of different things.
And let's not forget, tigers are tigers. They are part of this place and have been for as long as anyone can remember, and actually even longer. And sometimes they attack and even kill people and livestock.
They do that from time to time, and in fact here they're doing that more times than they used to do it in the past, and it's becoming quite a concern, and it's one of the issues that I'm trying to address in the research.
One of the places where the lives of people and tigers overlap is the buffer zone. It's a strip of forest that forms a rough, natural boundary between the preserve in Chitwan and the villages outside. An edge of basic villages with kids and animals, human life in this part of the world. Here we have village and buffer zone.
Right. And the buffer zone is a forest, but it's a little bit different than the national park forest. It's really designed to do two major things. It's to supply resources, forest resources, for local people who use the grass for their roofs or for fodder or wood to build their houses. But also it's to be a long-term area habitat for different wildlife. And so they're really trying to do two tasks to try to protect wildlife, but also have a source of resources for people. But you have them living right next to each other.
So I know you've put up cameras in this area you talked about. You've got the people living right here. So when we talk about tiger-human interaction, this is one of the sort of the epicenters,
This
right?
is exactly what it is about, tiger-human interaction.
This kind of a typical village for what you see around this part of Nepal?
Sure. Yeah, this is definitely a pretty typical village. You have various types of households. You have people who need various things for their children and for their livestock.
Living off the land or not?
They are living off the land, but as far as I can tell, it seems like they're living less off the land. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing. It's hard to tell at this point.
Hard to tell, because less living off the land could mean less carving into tiger habitat, which is good. But it could also mean less depending on the land, which could mean less use for wild areas and less of an urgency to save these areas. The best bet for the tigers and for this environment seems to be in the balance between the human and natural world.
This is about developing a sustainable system in which people can meet their demands, they can get the resources that they need, but also being able to protect biodiversity and protect these important wildlife species that people are interested in.
So that life here, life with tigers, is actual life, not the past, not just paintings and memories, not lost.
Mala.